Basically, I'm freaking out because we're about to have another baby and we're buying a house. You're gonna, have no money left and everything's gonna go to shit, and then you're gonna be on the street. This is the way my brain goes. This is the way my addict tells me it's gonna go. I'm gonna be on the street with 2 babies, living in a tent. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my series on the 12 steps. This week, step 12, the last one of the 12 steps. Step 12 is, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and practice these principles in all our affairs. So 12 is about giving back what we've learned. In order to keep sobriety, you have to give sobriety away. So that's an interesting concept, isn't it? To keep something, you have to give it away. I like that. I didn't understand it at first. Like most of this program, I didn't understand it when someone first told me about that concept, because I was all about keeping stuff for myself. Like if I want something, I have to hold on to it. Like to give it away, to keep it, that was a weird concept to me. But with sobriety, as in other things in life, that's the way it works. So not only do you have to give it back to other alcoholics and other addicts. Remember, the book says alcohol, but you can replace that with sex addiction, shopping, technology, food, gambling. So in order to keep sobriety, we have to give it away to help people. So it's really trying to live less selfishly, less self-centeredly. And it's not easy sometimes, because an addict's default setting is selfishness and self-centeredness. So to be trying to live opposite to that can be hard. And one of the concepts in recovery that I love is contrary action. So it's like taking what your default setting is and doing the opposite. That's helped me quite a lot. So to live less selfishly and be nice to people is contrary action. It's not the way my head is set up. My default setting when I wake up is selfishness, self-centeredness, pride, ego, all of those things. They're really at the fore when I wake up, and fear. I wake up very, very often. My first thought is fear, panic. But I have a program to think and act differently. And if I jump into that program the minute I wake up and try to think not about myself, remember, when I'm depressed, I'm thinking about me. But when I'm thinking about someone else, it's hard to be depressed. And I don't want to sound like I do this even, I'm trying. At least I've got something to aim for every day, which is to live like this. And I don't do it every day. In fact, this last week, I've been feeling pretty good. My step 11 video touched a lot of people, and I'm feeling pride about that. And I'm like, I'm super recovery, super spiritual, being of service. And I spoke to someone on the phone yesterday who's helping us buy this house. And he was like, what happened to goodwill to all men? I'm like, what? He goes, you're a little intense. And I'm like, wait, I'm super spiritual recovery man. I am Mr. 12 Steps. Like, I'm a joy to be around, surely. Turns out I've been being an asshole about around buying this house, and I had no idea. But now, and that's what's also good about this program. This guy who's not in recovery just was a mirror to me, and he goes, "You're being a little unreasonable, and you're being a little crazy." And it forced me to look and go, in the last week I have been a little bit of an asshole. And see the way my brain works. Another thing this program has really taught me is most of the things my brain tells me are not true, which is crazy, isn't it? Because I guess I'm mentally ill. Having an addiction, being an addict is a mental illness. My brain is ill, so it's not working properly. So my brain will tell me lies constantly. And I have to be aware and be looking out for little signals from the world and from other people normally that what I'm thinking is wrong. And that's where a sponsor is great, because I can run my ideas past the sponsor. And if I'd had a sponsor now, this week, he probably would have said to me, I could have run ideas about buying this house past him, and he could have said, that's unreasonable. You're being crazy. Basically, I'm freaking out because there might be another lockdown, and we're about to have another baby, and we're buying a house. So, we're renting the house back to the people that we're buying it from for a month, so they can get themselves sorted, which is perfectly reasonable. But I'm panicking. My addict, when it hears about another COVID lockdown, goes, everything's going to go bad. It's all going to go to shit. The worst thing possible scenario is going to happen. You're going to have the house with people locked down in the house, and you're going to be paying a mortgage on this house and paying a mortgage on that house and not being able to move to that house because those people are there, and they've only agreed to pay 1 month's rent, and it's going to be 6 months of lockdown, and you're going to, have no money left, and everything's going to go to shit, and then you're going to be on the street. This is the way my brain goes. This is the way my addict tells me it's going to go. I'm going to be on the street with 2 babies, living in a tent. That's literally how it goes from, there might be another lockdown, people may have to be indoors for 4 weeks, to that's the end for me. That's the end of everything. No more house, living in a tent. And it sounds crazy, doesn't it? But that's the way my thinking goes. That's the addict talking. And having someone go to me, you're crazy to be, so I'm on the phone going, they need to pay rent for all the time. What if there's a lockdown? And what if we're paying a mortgage on this house, but that house, we're paying a mortgage on that house, and they're living there and they're not paying us any rent, and all the money's going to be gone, and we're going to have to live in a tent. And so it takes someone who's not in my head to go, that's crazy thinking. And also, not only is it crazy, it's not very nice. It's not a nice thing, because I'm not thinking about those people. If they are locked down and they can't move to their house, that's horrible for them. Not thinking about that at all. It's all about me. It's all about me, not about them. I need to get that. This situation needs to go my way. And if it doesn't go my way, it's going to be a disaster, which isn't true. And I only have to look back at my life and go, that's never actually been the case. Most of the time when I've strong-armed something to happen, remember we talked about it in the step 5 video, when I strong-arm myself into situations, that's when it goes wrong, not when I just accept. So I have to accept this situation. It's going to work out. We may not be in the house before the next baby, and we maybe have to be in this house, and they will be renting the house from us, and that's fine. I'm not going to be living in a tent. We're not all going to be living in a tent. But unless I hear that from someone else, and unless I can talk to you about it, now me talking to you about it, I can see how crazy it is. But if I'm not talking about it and it's in there, it's real. So my brain will lie to me constantly. And I had that pointed out today. So I'm telling you that to show you that I'm not doing step 12 perfectly at all. So to give you a flip side of that, that's when I'm not working it properly. The flip side of it is 6 years ago when I came out of treatment for drug addiction, I had a sponsor. We'd gone through the 12 steps, and I called this guy up one day because life wasn't going my way. And I had a brilliant idea again, my head telling me something that wasn't true. My head told me, you need to go back on a little bit of drugs because life's too difficult and you're depressed. So get a little bit of drugs, not as many as you had before when you lost everything, just a little bit of drugs and you'll be fine. That's the addict. Can you hear that? A little bit will be fine. Or, something that's not very strong. And because I'm looking out of myself to fix myself, because I've got a hole in the soul, I'm feeling less than, I'm feeling depressed because I'm thinking about myself all the time. So my solution, my head tells me, look outside. Get something from outside, get a pill, get a viral video, get a new car, get a new house, get some new clothes. Those things are going to fill up this inside, where really it's an inside job. I have to get happiness from inside. So I called up my sponsor and I said, I've got this great idea. I just got a text there. I've got this great idea. I'm just going to take a little bit of drugs from the doctor. And my sponsor, bless him, he goes, okay, you can do that. But before you do that for your depression, I want you to try something. And I said, okay, what is that? And he goes, I want you to go to a thing called HNI, which is what AA, when you go into hospitals and institutions to talk about AA. So you go into these places to have a meeting. I told you about the psych ward in one of my other videos, but he says, do this first, and you can do the drugs after, but do this first. So I'm like, oh, God, I've got to talk to people like in prisons and hospitals. Oh, God damn, I'm too busy. I'm too important to do that. I'm not going to do that. It's going to be boring. I don't want to do it. It's going to be smelly in there. I'm gonna, these people, I'm not like them. I'm all this ego and grandiosity, which is causing the depression, but I can't see it. It comes in. So I went to do one of these panels, they call it. And I think the first one was in a prison, out in the valley. And I went in there, and there's like pretty hardcore guys with the tattoos, with the tears and stuff. So immediately I'm like, oh no. And they're looking very hard and very scary. So I'm sitting there, 3 people go before me, and one of them is like been in prison. He's talking to them and they're all identifying with him. And I'm like, oh no, I'm an English guy, a little bit strange. They're gonna beat me up is where my head goes. So this guy's talking, he's identifying with them on a prison level. He knows about all the culture. Then a woman goes who's, they really speak well. They really react well to her as well. And I'm like, when it gets to me though, they're going to hate me. See, thinking about me all the time, not thinking about them. So it comes to me and I just tell my story. I tell my story about what happened, what it was like, what happened and what it's like now about doing the steps. And all the time I'm telling this story, I'm not thinking about me, and suddenly it's about giving the message of Alcoholics Anonymous to these guys. And they were young guys as well in this prison, younger than me, some of them. So it's not about me, it's about them for those 10 minutes when I'm telling my story. And all of a sudden, I'm not thinking about myself, I'm not depressed, I'm not anxious. Something else takes over. I feel like something takes over and tells my story through me to these guys. And afterwards, when the thing's finished, they're coming up to me. We're talking like normal, just people, and I'm not seeing them in a different light to me. I'm not grandiose or comatose. I'm not better than or less than. I'm not better than because I'm not in prison. I'm not less than because I'm not as tough. We're just talking. Me and these guys one-to-one, and it's amazing. And they're like, I might give this a try, or thanks for coming out. I've been in prison for multiple drug offenses. I keep coming back and I can't get clean. And it's such an incredible experience. And I drive away from there going, okay, that's better than drugs. That's definitely better than drugs. I feel like I've really been of service, and it's really emotional, and that keeps me going for a whole week. And then a week later, I'm back to myself. And so the next week I go and do that again. And I did that for a few months. I did it in prisons. I did it in children's a ward for children that have tried to commit suicide or self-harmed. We'd had a meeting in there every Sunday, and that was like my favorite one, I think. These were young kids, but they're real desperate, really desperate. And, some of them, lots of them had drug problems. I don't remember doing drugs and drinking that under 18 when I was a kid, but it's a big thing now, pills. And that's what I went out on pills. So it's the same thing. They're not going to relate to me. They're so much younger. They're into video games. I don't know anything about video games. I tell my story and immediately we connect. So yeah, going and speaking to people really on the edge, people really, really on the edge of society and really on the edge of committing suicide in some cases, helped. I wasn't depressed because I was doing that every week. And like anything, because it's working, I stopped doing it. So I stopped doing it. And then I got depressed again. Weird, isn't that strange? So step 12 is where I learned to live differently, and I learned that not thinking about, not being obsessed with just me makes me more sober, gives me serenity, gives me peace of mind, and helps me have self-worth, self-esteem. So the giving back and that helping other people is where the day-to-day recovery is, and that's how I stay sober. Getting sober is one thing, and that's easier than staying sober. Staying sober is where 12 happens, and I don't always want to do it. And I do think this is going to be boring. I don't have time. I'm too busy. I'm too important. And that's all ego. That's all the addict coming in and saying all that stuff. When I'm sitting in these places, looking at desperate faces looking back at me, who are institutionalized, and I'm thinking, the old me would never be here on a Sunday morning at 11. Never in a million years would I come here on a Saturday night at 9 o'clock to talk to people who are, in hospital. But the fact that I'm here means I've changed, doesn't it? The fact that I'm doing this means something's changed. So that's proof that I'm a different person. And that is the spiritual awakening that it talks about, having had a spiritual awakening. So I've had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, because I'm sitting in a room of suicidal kids. I'm sitting in a room of prison, of people incarcerated. I'm sitting in a room of alcohol ward people who are on death's door. I'm sitting in this situation talking about what happened to me. And that's not a selfish thing. So I'm different. So I have had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. And that's proof that it works. Even that, but there's so many more things that you get from this program that we've talked about in all the steps leading up to this. But this is where you really see, for me, this is where I saw that I was a different guy. Looking at myself, sitting in these situations, talking to people without wanting to get anything out of it and just trying to give back. So I've hopefully given you, I'm not trying to make myself look, aren't I spiritual? Because I'm not, and it is hard. And most of the time I'm not like that. You see that from the realtor conversation. And then the opposite flip side of that coin is sometimes I am like that. And even just getting that side where I am like that, like a small percentage of the time is way better than me having none of that, which is what I was like before I got recovery. And it turns out the selfishness and self-seeking and the holding on and the grabbing things didn't make me happy anyway. So why not try something different? So that's what I try to do on a daily basis. I try to live less selfishly and just try to be nice to people. That's it really. That's boiled it down. I'm not saying I do it, but that's what I try to do. So yeah, thank you for listening to all the 12 steps with me. This has been quite a journey, hasn't it? So why don't you tell me what you want me to do next? I've got a few ideas. There's other parts of recovery that I want to dig into and give little talks about like this. And it's selfish, actually, because talking to you keeps me sober. So write in the comments, wherever you see this, what you want to see next. What do you want me to do a video about related to recovery? Because there's so many ways to go, and I don't really know how to go. So I'm trying to, as they say, let God into the decision. So you guys tell me what you want to see or hear, or tell me to just shut up and stop doing these because they're annoying me. I hope you don't, but you might. Yeah, thank you, as I always say, for keeping me sober this week, because talking to you is me talking to another alcoholic, if you are an alcoholic, that is, or me just talking about the program helps me stay sober. So thank you, because you have helped me stay sober this week. And I love you guys, and let me know what you want to see next, because I don't know. What do you want me to talk about? Let's see what happens next week. Love you guys.